Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. I am so excited to share with you my latest free crochet pattern. It's this adorable donkey, but it's bittersweet. My joy and pride in this pattern is going to be tragically short-lived, but I'll explain more later. If my eyes look sad, it's not so bad that I'm crying about it. I have hay fever. Pollen everywhere. It's like the occasional sun comes out in England and all the flowers go hooray, achoo. Let me talk to you first about where the design came from and a couple of things that will help you if you want to follow along. Last week I crocheted this horse as a gift for my 11-year-old daughter who is horse mad. She's called him Jeremy, by the way. Great name. And Jeremy was very well received by her, but was also very well received by my 4-year-old son, who really wanted one of his own. And I've got this thing, if you're not new to the channel, you'll have heard me say it before, I don't like making the same thing twice. I get an idea and I get very enthusiastic about the idea and I make the idea and then I move on. So the answer to that was to make a different style. And what I did was I made this donkey. So the basis is the same, but I made a few structural differences in order for it to be a bit more donkey-like. I've slightly adjusted the shape of the face. I've given him this fabulous white eyeliner. You can't see where I'm pointing. I've given him this fabulous white eyeliner that's just sewn on. I used surface crochet to give a definition to the hooves here in this nice dark colour, and I gave him a little patch on his tummy, which donkeys have. Now I don't know how familiar you are with donkeys, they come in a variety of colours, but this sort of slightly bluish hint to it, isn't it? This sort of bluish grey, very classic for a donkey and a donkey toy. And I did the hair slightly differently because donkeys have this sort of brush, like if you imagine that you glued a brush to the top of your head, they have this sort of brush hair rather than the flowing locks of your horse. So instead of making it like I did with the horse with chains that were looped around, I literally just looped around the yarn there and sewed it in and out with a needle. Now, if you're making this pattern, what I recommend that you do is, having done this part with the loops, just take some scissors and snip through all of them and then tie them together, and that will make it look even more donkey-like on the hair. The reason I've not done that is because it's very slightly more likely to work loose, and this is a toy for a 4-year-old and he plays enthusiastically with his toys and they all sleep underneath him in his bed. So just having that little extra layer of protection, if you will, that slightly decreased chance of it all coming unravelled and me having to do it again, I've left them as loops for this one. You'll see if you go down to the free pattern, which is on the Lucy Kate Crochet website, I've said that it's an intermediate pattern. And the reason for that is it's really sort of come to my attention recently that quite a lot of the patterns that I and other people sort of casually say are beginner friendly actually really aren't. And there are quite a few different skills in this one that you'll need to use. There's a fair amount of hand sewing, the surface crocheting that I just mentioned, and it requires a little bit of patience making a toy this size as well. It's not a particularly small one. I think it's totally worth the extra effort for these more complicated amigurumi designs, but you know, different strokes for different folks. But this one I'm particularly happy with. I haven't shown it to my son yet, and that is when we get on to where the problem comes in, is that he was very excited about the idea of having his own horse. I suggested a donkey, also very well received. And he then asked whether it could have a moustache. Donkeys don't have a moustache. Don't know if it's something you've noticed. Very occasionally, horses have a bit that looks a little bit like a moustache, but it's for him. It's his donkey. I'm making it. I'm capable of creating a moustache, right? So I'm going to make it a moustache. And that's something I'm going to do for him, and I will add that on later. This donkey is going to have a moustache, and then he wanted a beard too. Okay, not a problem. I'm going to make him a moustache and a beard. I've got the design finished. I'm going to take some photos today and I'll pop that pattern up, and I'll try and simultaneously upload this video and publish the pattern at the same time so you can go straight down and check it out. But this donkey, of which I must admit I am particularly proud actually, is just going to look so silly. And silly is great sometimes, but I quite like to go for realism in my designs. And yeah, so he's going to have a moustache and a beard, and I okayed this moustache and a beard, and then he looked at me and went, but of course, but you know, in a 4-year-old way. And also, can it have a horn? Now, at the point that he asked for a horn, this section was already made. So I think I'm going to try and fashion some kind of unicorn style horn that I can have on a little strap for him that he can take on and off so that he can make it a unicorn when he wants to. There may be some way I can make the facial hair come on and off as well. I'm going to have a think about that. But yeah. So this donkey, which is currently I think, pretty awesome, fairly realistic style of a donkey, other than the fact that it's this teddy bear plushy shape, isn't it? But it's fairly realistic, but it's going to look like a cartoon baddie donkey. But you know, that's part of the fun, isn't it, of making something yourself and making it bespoke for somebody. You do get to make it how they want it to be. One thing I should mention about the standard pattern actually is, I don't know how well it shows up on here, but I've used dark brown instead of black for these definition points. I think that it still looks full donkey, but what it does is it moves you away from it looking a bit too sort of jarringly contrasting. And honestly, black yarn is harder to photograph nicely as well for you guys to see what I've done. So that's a very, very, very dark brown rather than black there. Have you seen the little tail? That's pretty cool. That's just looped in and out, hand sewn. So there you go, a quick introduction to this guy who over the next couple of days won't really look like this anymore. But hopefully will make a 4-year-old boy incredibly happy, and that's the aim, isn't it? And what I'm going to do, I think, now that I have got Jeremy and this is Sausage Roll, this is his name, go with it, Sausage Roll and Jeremy. I went to see a friend of mine at the weekend. She's got a little baby 4 or 5 months old who really liked Jeremy. So I think I'm going to make another one like these for her, but I'm going to do a zebra, and I'm going to try and do it slightly differently to what I've seen zebras done before. So hopefully that'll turn out well. I'll film it as I do it, and yeah, so I can show that to you guys later. But it's a funny thing when there's something sort of aesthetically that really appeals to you. I wasn't expecting how much I like this horsey shapes. And it is, I think there's going to be a series of them, you know, and it goes against my whole ethos of not wanting to make the same thing because they are quite similar, but it still enables you to have a little bit of artistic license there. Chat to me in the comments. Tell me what other horsey shaped things you think I should do. So it's going to be zebra next. And after that, it's going to be moving across into one of my very favorite unusual animals. I might try an okapi. We'll see how that goes. Let me know what you think also of how Sausage Roll is going to end up with his interesting facial hair. I'll share pictures on Instagram and the Facebook page after I've done those, so you can see. But the video is probably going to go up before I've done them. But if it doesn't, I'll tag them on the end for you now. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section, and I'll chat to you there. Happy crocheting!